if women weren't the way they are now, I would tell guys, stay a virgin.
Yeah.
Like, fucking wait, man. Like, exercise that discipline. But nowadays, with just the way women are, it's like you almost get punished for being that nice guy and being extremely virtuous and nice to these girls because they don't reward that anymore. Like, chivalry is dead, and I genuinely think modern day women killed it. So it's like, though I think that's optimal and the best way to go about it, I just don't think it's practical or pragmatic in today's day and age is my only issue.
Well, I mean, the problem is there's a lot of truth in what you say.
Yeah.
And so, I'm a firm believer in accepting what is objective reality. It is objective reality that promiscuity inside of Western nations is now out of control to the point where reining it back in seems like almost a fool's errand. But I also think that if we can provide any pushback to move it the right direction, we should.
Yeah. I mean, and now I'm actually like, brainstorming here how we would do that. The only way we would do it is, you would have to make a religious state to do it because, quite frankly,
at least give a religious option, right? And let the religious govern it as synergy. So the nations of old had a synergistic relationship.
Yeah.
It was not that the state was run by the church, just that the state worked with the church.
Yeah.
Why should the state govern marriage?
So you're not a fan of separation of church and state then?
Well, not a separation. I think, though, that we should not necessarily live in a state which is controlled by the church, but has a synergistic relationship.
Okay.
Your population needs to have some moral foundation, right? You can't have people who, even patriotism itself used to be a big deal in the United States, right?
Yeah.
That was a unifying force. So there's all kinds of propaganda towards patriotism, right? It was everywhere.
Yeah.
There was American flags and, the patriotic messaging was everywhere. And it's a subtle form of brainwashing, which unifies people through an ideology.
Yeah.
Religion does the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can push any kind of synergy with the church, you don't have to make the...
But how would we get the young people to do that? Because my thing is, so I see your perspective and I see your vision. I agree with you that religion absolutely curbs a lot of this bullshit. The problem is, how are you going to get the young people to accept it? Like, how are you going to get the young people to
the same way that the leftists did it?
Okay.
Through moving through institutions as quickly as we possibly can and adjusting our propaganda at the national level. The propaganda I want to see at the national level sounds like this. Get married young. Have 1 million children because we're going to tax exempt you from life. For life. You'll be tax exempt for life. 3 kids, right? We're going to make it really hard for you to get a divorce because the state's getting out of it. You can only get married through your church. The state's not even going to offer a marriage certificate. We don't need to anymore because our job is to push towards the health and welfare of the United States. And this is no longer healthy for the United States to have marriage through the state. It has become so bad that people who enter it, your likelihood of exiting clean is almost 0%, right?
Yeah.
So
impossible.
You can do the same thing. You can have national rhetoric, national brainwashing campaigns, right? Just the other direction. Now, brainwashing has a negative connotation.
So how are you going to override? And this is just like I genuinely want to get your opinion on this. How do we override the Cardi B's, the Sexy Reds, the ridiculous music, the ridiculous social media addiction that a lot of young people have, the TikTok working, the OnlyFans culture that we have, the sex work? I would argue nowadays, like, young women are more inspired by sex workers than anything else, right? Like, if you ask a young, attractive girl, who's your role model? And we've done it on the podcast a bunch of times. Who do they say? Kim K.
Yeah.
It's f***ing crazy. Like, that's what they aspire to be like
and
now.
It's like, it's sickening to listen to.
So it's like, how are we going to override?
Here's how you do it.
All the degenerate propaganda has been put out there.
Muslims are fantastic at this.
Yeah.
And Christians are not. Muslims engage. What I've noticed about Muslims is they engage. They engage in ideology, man. They engage in political prescriptions, and they're in your face about it. Christians have become soft and too nice. We have adopted Christianity to be a be nice religion, and it never was a be nice religion.
It's passive.
It's supposed to be a get in your face religion. It's supposed to be a no, you're wrong. You fucking skank, you're wrong, and you're a liar, and you're destroying the very fabric of society. But we don't see that engagement from Christians anymore because it's been so subverted by women saying, no, be nice.
Yeah.
What I would like to see is, instead of theological debates going on all over the place between Christian versus Christian, and I'd like to see more Christians actually move into the political space, like I have. You even see guys like Fuentes did this. They move into the political space, and they fight that way. They push back using Christianity ideologically through politics. And that's become very popular. Suddenly it starts picking up steam. You start hearing about things like Christian nationalism, start hearing about Christian hierarchies and all these different ideas, not because we're having obscure theological debates, but because we're getting in your face politically. We're saying, no, Christians aren't passive. No, Christians aren't sissies. No, Christians aren't supposed to just sit there while secularists rule us. That is a huge misinterpretation that people have, that secularists are somehow better off having power than the religious. That's insane. Secularists are not good at wielding power. They have no moral grounding from which to wield it. So if we really want to see change, instead of trying to get into Christian apologetics in order to have theological debates and theological discussions, get into Christian politics and go get in their face. And that, I think, will have more of a result in society than people can imagine. Is it going to happen overnight? No. Is it going to be cross-generational? Yeah. But I'd rather see people push that direction.
Okay. And you had mentioned earlier that you don't foresee this happening like in our generation. When do you foresee this like happening? Because
it took the left about 3 generations to completely infiltrate all of our institutions. It's going to take us about 3 generations to infiltrate them ourselves. We have to get involved again in culture. We have to be confrontational. And we're
talking 60 to 100 years then.
Probably 60 years.
Yeah.
But that's a blink of the eye.
Yeah.
It's a blink of the eye. You know what I mean? And it's like, maybe we can't save them all, right? But we can at least start the process. And it's like, I would rather start the process and start moving that direction and be realistic with the outcome, right? The most beautiful churches in the world took 300, 400, 500 years, 1,000 years to build. They were cross-generational projects.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not saying that we can save men right now. That would be absurd. What I am saying, though, is that men can save themselves by working towards that goal.
Yeah, religion's always been a very good way to increase productivity. Obviously, keep your head on straight, avoid a bunch of stupid shit. Luckily, if you got discipline, you can avoid it. Avoid being an alcoholic or doing drugs and doing all those stupid shit. But yeah, I mean, religion absolutely helps a lot of people when it comes to that. It's just that I look at it like, damn. Are people gonna because I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Personally, I think it's gonna continue to get even. Yep. I think women are gonna continue to be even. I think it's gonna be like right now. It's cool to be a sex worker as a chick. Like you got young people nowadays, right? Yeah, boys and girls saying I want to be an influencer, right? For the girls, I want to be an influencer that's sexualizing myself. For the guys, they want to be a moronic idiot that's on Twitch running around doing stupid shit. So it's like. It's the youth is like just brainwashed, and then you compound that with the music, with TikTok, with with the pornography, the ubiquitousness of ubiquity of pornography. Everywhere. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. So it's like I look at it like fuck, like okay, how's the guy gonna navigate this nowadays? Like religion ain't gonna save you from these hoes right now. Maybe in like you said, in 2 to 3 generations.
But you know what saves men though? A mission.
Absolutely, I agree.
What saves men is a mission.
Yeah.
And if you give men a direction and they know that they're collectively working towards that mission, man, it's incredible how much men can achieve even with a small collective and a mission and an ideology.
I agree.
And that's why I'm like, push that. Well, for me, you know what I mean? I'm going to push that. I'm going to push that direction. And it's been so successful in days past. And we've just forgotten we have our own institution too. The church. We have our own institutional power, and we can push back, but we have to get in their face. We have to stop pretending that Christianity is a be nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what is your strategy? Because like you got gay pastors now, you got female pastors.
You get in their face.
You got all
go
this
confront
stuff.
Them.
Like
you ask these guys, just like what happened with TPUSA when they asked them the question of all questions. How is it that your LGBTQ push in conservatism is helping us win the culture war? And they had no answer to it, right? By the way, stroke of political genius that happened, okay? They got in their face. They said, no, this is not part of Christian ethics. This is not part of our grounding foundation. What are we trying to conserve here? And that type of thing, I think, has more of a value to general society than any other single thing men could be doing.
Yeah, I mean,
hold on. I have a question for you, bro, because I've been listening this whole time.
Yeah.
I believe you're on the right track here, 100%. But I also come from a Christian background.
Yeah.
I believe what you're saying is true, 100%. Only the issue here is that, like, the church itself is not, fault. You know, I think the church itself is wayward. It's gone all the way left. Now, granted, how do you fix the issue at hand? It starts with the church, but the Pope himself, other pastors that are funded by the government themselves, are all to the left. How do you fix that?
I'll explain. You are correct, especially in Catholicism, this is true. But you know what's interesting about the Catholic Church, and I'm an Orthodox myself, not Catholic. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is you have, for the first time in an organization that I've seen, which is involved in politics, you have top-down instead of bottom-up corruption. Usually it's corruption from the bottom, which goes up to the top, and then the top stays corrupt, right? Mm-hmm. In this case, a lot of Catholics are base, man. I mean, they're pretty awesome. They're the grounding foundation of Catholicism. They're the money givers. They're the tithers.
Yeah.
They're the people who are making the Catholic Church possible to begin with. And it's like, it's really easy to go to those people and say, stop tithing. Stop tithing if they're going to go towards this, you know, this type of agenda. Stop feeding the money to them. That's how you get at Catholicism, because the bottom's not corrupt. The top is corrupt. You can go for the clergy, and the clergy can vote with their wallet. And man, if you starve an institution of money, what happens, right? That's what they do to creators, right? They don't like what you say, they starve you of money, and that shuts you up. And it's the same thing with any organization. It's the same thing within Orthodoxy. It's the same thing within Protestantism. Cut off the money supply until they reform to what they're supposed to be. And it's like the Catholic Church, much harder, because the corruption does go up to the top, in my opinion. Okay, but still the grounding foundation of most Catholics, they're pretty awesome. Most of them are pretty awesome people. And it's like, I don't think it would take too much to begin to push them to say, stop tithing that way until, you know, some of this stuff goes by the wayside.
Who are they going to follow? You or the Pope?
Well, they're going to follow the Pope for the most part, but some of them are so frustrated with what's going on with papal authority or papal authority that I don't think it would take much, right? I'm not saying that one man's going to be able to push the whole tide. What I'm saying is that you can begin at least to do your own part to move people towards that. Not saying one guy's going to be able to do it. That's absurd. Though single people have been able to do things like this in the past, I think that everybody moving towards it in their own way, trying their hardest in their own way to move towards that. Yeah. That's how you see things get done.
I like that. I would just say, though, tell me if you understand this phrase: right will be wrong, wrong will be right in these times.
Right will be wrong and wrong will be right. Yeah. So, but that's all times.
But even more so now.
Well, more so than when. So if you look at history, if we're going to get into theology, right? Everything that is to come to pass has already come to pass.
Yes.
Right. Could be way worse in 100 years, and it may have been way worse 200 years ago. Right. Ultimately, I'm not going to look at it though and say, hey, we're in the end times right this second, so I'm just going to throw in the towel and throw my hat on the couch and I'm done. No, I'm going to still act within the ethical purview of which I've been given, and I'm going to, if Jesus comes tomorrow, right, and it was all for nothing, then it was all for something. So that's the way I see it.
I like it. Good man.
No, well, I mean, you did say it's a multi-generational thing, which I think, it's gonna take a while. It's just that I think, like, with the way things are now, us being in a secular society, etc. And I know you disagree with me on the 50 body count, which is totally fine. I think that's important for you to be able to have a conversation with people that you disagree with.
Sure.
I think it's a viable strategy given the environment that we're in now, with the way women are, with the way the marriage institute is set up in the United States, with the state being involved, etc. And let's be honest, most guys are not going to get married through a religious counterpart that's going to protect them and not incentivize the woman, because most women nowadays are like, if I'm going to get married, I need a marriage certificate. I need all this stuff. I mean, hell, you can't even tell a girl nowadays that you want a prenup without issues, right? So it's like, I think with knowing that most guys are going to get married through the state, it's like, all right, you're going to go through this route, then you need to be prepared. Because I think it's the most important boxing match of your life. You need to train, because that girl's definitely been training when she was going through college and being at the 304 and smashing dudes and all this other stuff.